With so much confusion going on in the world, so many voices, you have to go on a journey and isolate yourself in order to know what you really think.
Wait, what? Welcome back, guys. So as I said, we have two guests today that is going to share their stories. And because of the subject matter, we're just going to jump right on in there and let's really talk about this thing called church hurt. So with me today is a very special guest, first guest, by the name of Sashay Kingdom. Sashay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Apostle.
All right. Give her a round of applause. Sashay is an entrepreneur. She is a wife. And get this, guys. I know you can't look at her and tell, but she is the mother of 4. She has that's worth a hand clap.
Listen.
She has a very beautiful tribe, but she also has a very beautiful story. So before we get right into it, Sashay, please tell us. Tell the people a little bit about yourself. I know I gave them a little bit, but tell them a little bit about yourself so they can know you a little bit better.
So as Apostle said, I am a wife, a mother of 4 wonderful children, but I also am a realtor. So if you guys ever need any assistance, I'm here to help. But I'm also a notary. I manage all of my husband's businesses, Jesus over everything. I'm also in a mom tribe called Mom Fits that cultivates mothers and just hold each other accountable and build each other up spiritually. So that's who I am.
So you have a community, sounds like everywhere you turn.
Amen.
Yes. So with that, I think it's going to be important that what you say now, it comes from a real place. Because you have a family, you also are part of these different groups, but you were once a part of a church.
Yes.
And you seem to be, from what I know, and I'm pretty sure the people at home can tell you, you seem to be someone that is a very loyal, passionate, and sincere person. So let's talk about church hurt. Let's go down this road. Tell us what happened. Tell us what you experienced.
Jeez. It's so much to say. I can speak to a lot, but I can give a little bit of an overview.
Okay.
So I wasn't necessarily connected to a church, but I was connected to individuals that were looking to build a church.
Okay.
So I was a part of the foundation, the conception of growing the vision.
Okay.
So I was connected to these people for 8 years.
Wow.
And in that 8 years, at the very beginning, of course, they helped. My life transformed in the areas that it needed to transform. But then in that, probably the last 2 to 3 years of being connected to them, things shifted tremendously. And in that, I experienced a lot of things that I personally believe were like, wow, like, Lord, why would you allow this? These are people that I looked at were like parents I never had before. So when I was in it, I was in it. I was loyal. I saw the vision. So we all go through hard times. That's fine. You have your people that are going to be there, that's going to ride with you no matter what. But when that hard times, meaning like, and what I can say is like these people, when we met them, they had everything. And then they lost everything and never recovered. But in that process of helping them get back on their feet, there was never a getting back on their feet. They literally, and me and my husband are a young family, having babies left and right every 2 years. So, and they were there with us through that. And what I mean was they were like intimately close, like living with us through this process.
How big was your apartment?
We were in a 1-bedroom apartment
Wow.
with, at the time, 2 little ones, but I was pregnant with my third.
Okay.
1-bedroom apartment, 2 other adults, all of our kids, and then all of their stuff housed in our living room, and we were in our bedroom, and they were in the living room.
So you're saying you were intentionally serving some church leaders,
Yes.
or leaders
Yes.
that were intended to start a church,
Yes.
and you guys took them in, and though your family was smaller then, it was still growing,
Yes.
and they ended up occupying space in your apartment.
Yes.
And how long did this period last?
This period lasted 3 separate apartments, 2.5 to 3 years.
Wow.
But so many things happened in between that period.
Please share as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
So in that, there were, we all have flaws. We all have character issues and things that we're working on. That's a part of life. You grow, and you grow together with people. But as someone that was new to the faith, I didn't grow up in a church. My husband definitely grew up in a church, definitely experienced the church hurt, been to different leaders. But for me, I was just, the traditional, I only go to church on the holidays. So that was my upbringing. So to come out here to California, and I literally met them within the year of being out here, that transition was wow. I've never heard anything so deep, so revelatory. And I dove head first in. So in my stint with them, I learned what manipulation was. I learned what it means to be bewitched. I learned what it means to be so zealous for God and leave your path of process, that you go ahead of what God has intended and planned for you, and you don't allow him to mold you. I've witnessed that firsthand. Like I said, we all have flaws and issues. That's okay. But when you're not accountable, when you leave where the Lord has planted you and you start your own way, you fall so deep into deception that it just literally takes you further and further away from God.
So let me ask you this, because I want to really spell it out. Since we're talking about specifically church hurt, and you're sharing experience, let's underline where the actual hurt came in. When did that happen, and what did that look like? How did that affect your life?
I want to say the hurt, there were different levels to it.
Okay.
Because it happened in different.
Let's talk about it.
So I truly believe that time of my life wasn't supposed to be as long as it was. However, I wasn't catching the lesson that God was trying to get to me. So the very first time that the hurt like really hit me was when my spiritual mother at the time accused me of wanting her husband.
I'm sorry, accused you of wanting her husband that lived in your house at this? Okay.
Yes, she accused me of wanting her husband because I was like 24, 25 at the time, and they are older than my parents. So she accused me because my way of expressing my hurt, because I didn't understand the way she was handling my children. And I still wanted to stay in the position of honor and respect, because these are my leaders. Even though they're here, I pay the bill, I still wanted to respect and honor. And I didn't know how at the time to deliver in a way that was in love, because I'm still this, hood girl from Detroit.
You still growing yourself.
I'm still, growing myself. So I would ask my, at the time, spiritual father, how do I handle your wife? Like, what's my approach in it? And she took my abrupt, like, I'm good, I'm straight with her as, oh, you're after my husband. So that was the first hurt. So then it trickled into, we had the opportunity to move. And mind you, now we have our third baby. 1-bedroom apartment, they're still there with 3 children. We're expanding, we need to move. So the opportunity came up to move. So we moved, and it was like an abrupt move because we were on a month-to-month basis. So we let them know, and they end up staying there. staying at the older apartment, and then they ended up not paying rent, and we got an eviction.
Wow.
So then they walked with us through court, the eviction, everything, and I'm like, I'm hurt at this time because I'm like, how are you not seeing it? Why is this even okay? We're getting up every day to go to work, me and my husband, and y'all just here chilling. We got an eviction because the Lord said you can't work, you know, you hold on, stay to the vision, the Lord is going to provide. But it's like, make it make sense, you know, like it's not making sense. And even after that, they still came and lived with us in our new apartment.
So
And that's just halfway through the story.
I know, because we got a big show. I want to ask, what made you allow them, because I know evictions can go on credit and really affect you. Yeah. What made you then allow them to go into the next place with you guys, knowing what you saw character-wise?
It was honestly, it was a guilt thing. Well, we don't have anywhere to go. If you guys would have never left, this would have never happened. So it was a guilt thing for me because I loved them. Like, they walked me through some times. You know, at the beginning of my marriage, they married my husband and I, and they were the godparents of my children. So I was heavily invested. Even though my husband was done, I was still heavily invested. So there was like a guilt thing there. And I really thought that my destiny was in them. So if I disconnected, I was aborting the destiny and the mission that God had given to me and my husband. So that it was a guilt thing. Like, we will always sit down and talk, hash it out. However, there still wasn't any real accountability there. It was still just like, well, this, you know, God would put you in a position to be able to bless others. But I'm like, well, we don't have nothing to give, so how am I supposed to, how are we supposed to bless you? I just was not understanding. But yet I kept holding on, not realizing how programmed I was to even do the things that I didn't want to do.
That's a tough spot.
Yeah. So.
That's a tough spot. So you were saying that you kind of had, there was tears. So now the first thing happens, the second thing happens. Was there anything that was like a final straw, or was there?
There was a final straw, but it still was a process. So the way that it happened was, she would go home to visit her dad. Now, like I said, he's my spiritual father, so I'm zealous for God. I'm hungry. So I was at the time always asking questions. I couldn't really get much from her because the death wasn't there. So it was just like, oh, you know, just brush it off. But the death was there with him. So my husband and I will always speak with him. So when she went away, he then began to profess to me his underlining, I guess, love or whatever he had for me, and how I should be his wife, and how he's learned a lot from me as far as virtues that a woman should possess to carry the destiny of a man, to help him. And those were the areas that his wife was lacking.
Okay, so these are leaders at the time that you, your husband, your whole family were connected to. Yes. And so you know, basically talking about you from the eviction to talking about you to now you're dealing with some really tough stuff, all under one roof. My question for you is, how did that affect everything else around you, even your outlook on life?
It was a heavy weight. Because I was in a position where my husband and I, we weren't on good terms. He had just lost his dad. We weren't seeing eye to eye. We just always had just stuff in between us. And then you add on them, and it was just like, it was a weight that I didn't realize I was carrying so heavy that literally it was destroying me. It was killing my mindset. I couldn't pray. Like, I really had a season where I didn't want to pray. I was angry with God. I had such a brain fog. I'm like, what's the point? Like, at least ease me into this Christian walk. Like, no, your forethought to just thrust me into all of this craziness. And I'm like, God, like, why? And I didn't understand because I couldn't even express it to my husband because it would have broke us.
So then, wow. Wow. Listen, guys, this is not a tough, or I should say, it's not an easy subject matter.
Yeah.
But let's drop some fires in the comments for the sharing. This is because we're trying to help someone here today, and we're not just going to dive into the depths or the deep of it, and not have some light in this. So let me ask you just directly here. From all that you're sharing, and I know it's like a lot to just fit into this segment, but have you recovered from this particular hurt in your life and time?
Have I recovered?
Yes.
Yes.
And how did you notice you had recovered?
I noticed my recovery when I started to think about it less, when I started to not be affected, because to this day they're still reaching out to me and my husband, even though we have them blocked on all platforms, even on our phones. But my husband is a little bit more open. But now I'm not reactive. Before, the very first time they reached out, like after my birthday, I thought about it for a week. I was confused, like, why would they call? And because they were accusing me. So I was reactive. And I knew I still needed to heal in that area. So now when they try to call, and my husband will be like, okay, let me, see what they want. It's like, what's the point? Like, it's less and less. It's like, oh, okay, they'll be all right. They'll catch it one day, It's less for me.
Yeah.
I'm not moved anymore. I'm not reactive in the sense where I'm like, oh, I need to revert or replay what happened to me over and over again. I let it go, and I've seen the growth in my mind. I can control my mind. I can literally walk in what God has called me to walk in.
So what I want to ask you now is you're now a member of a whole nother church.
Yes.
How has that affected you? And
Listen.
Yeah, let's go.
Listen, Revelation Church has changed my life. And I've been here for almost 2 years.
It's okay to clap.
Listen,
it's okay to clap. I know we're stretching it a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah. It has changed my life because now I'm walking in a new version of myself. So I had one or two ways that I can do it. I could have came here bitter, angry, not open to receive what God has for me, and I could have missed it. I could have been on the same path that I was before growing up, angry, bitter, playing the victim about everything, literally, and not even seeing that's what I was doing. But I made the choice. I heard the voice, and I decided to be on that path of process and allow the Lord to mold me, continue to change me. And now I'm walking in my destiny. I have destiny partners. I have a whole community that's supporting me, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. And look, listen, I'm out here. I'm shining like it's me. This is my thing. I'm doing my thing.
And you won't let's talk about it. And because you can talk about it.
Yes.
It is one easy or clear way to knowing that you have grown past a place in your life, and that is when you can talk about it. And as you can see, Sashay is not just talking about it. She's talking about it with a smile. She's talking about it with joy and still love in her heart. And we thank you for just coming on. I wish we could just extend this time, but we do have some more stories, another guest that we want to give the people an opportunity to hear from, because, there are different levels to this church hurt. There's different aspects and different ways in which people are affected. And so we want to cover as much as we possibly can. But while we still have you, please tell the people where they can find you. If maybe they want to hear more, maybe it is now your opportunity to maybe either minister, get them a house or whatever.
Amen.
Tell the people your information so they can know where to find you.
So you can find me on all social media platforms. So Instagram is Sashay Elias Kingdom, as well as Facebook. Well, those are the only two platforms. So you can reach out to me on those two platforms at any cost. I'll respond to you. I'm always available. So that's all I have.
And any websites or anything? Or?
No websites yet.
Okay. So we have some amazing information that we'll throw into the bottom. So we have our social medias. And guys, for those of you at home, maybe this is your exact story, maybe it's not. But right here, what you heard was a champion of forgiveness. And there's more to learn from her. But we'll be right back with another guest. And he has also experienced hurt by the hands of the church. But let's hear what he has to say and see where we're going to go with that. All right? So we will be right back. We're switching it up a little bit today. This is the first that we've had 2 guests on the show. And so that first segment was wild. When we heard from Sashay Kingdom, and she told her story, and we might have to have a part 2. I don't know. But with me now is another amazing guest by the name of Dre LaMonte. Dre, welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Come
sir.
on, let me get a little
Appreciate it.
So I've had the privilege of going live with him on his social media and when I was promoting my book in business and dating, and it was a great experience. So it is special for me to be able to now ask this guy who asked me so many amazing questions, some questions, but also not for the sake of. The subject matter is still one of those ones where we want to dive in. So with that, once again, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
I'm happy to be here.
Tell the people a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be here with someone who I admire tremendously.
Thank you.
You're a phenomenal man. And so, like he said, my name is Dre LaMonte. I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm an artist, I'm a businessman. I can go on, but that would be irrelevant.
He does have a lot of slashes, if you will, but not for the sake of. Very productive and progressive. So Dre, you know what we're here to talk about.
Yes, yes, sir.
We had an opportunity to discuss, but we want to share with the people. So earlier, you heard the stories we were talking with Sashay about her experience
Indeed.
with church hurt.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're here to share your own. So let's just go right into it. What was your encounter and experience with church hurt?
My first encounter, because actually multiple occurrences.
Okay.
But my first encounter, it was actually kind of shocking because I didn't grow up in church. So I didn't understand the church customs and the norms and things like that. I never really understood it. And so when it happened, it kind of threw me for a loop. And I think, it was because of who it came from. And so one of my first instances with it, I remember a leader that I had was very vocal, extremely vocal, and a lot of times the things that he would say, he would somehow justify it as if it was right. Again, I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't know if that was correct.
So it was your church leader?
Yeah.
That's what you said, okay.
Yeah, the senior leader.
Senior leader, okay.
Yeah, and so, I had served under that ministry for about, I want to say 12 years. And so, it was a time for me to move forward. And so I remember when I made the decision to, after careful consideration, because I do believe in loyalty.
Yeah.
And I stayed loyal for a long time. And so I remember when I transitioned out, it was a Sunday morning. I had already been out of the church for about maybe a week, so still very fresh out. And he, by name, publicly said some things that I confided into him to the congregation and those who were watching via live. And it was just really, really hurtful.
So you weren't at service that day.
No.
But he spoke your name in an incident.
Yeah.
Or said something very private.
Yeah.
To the public.
Yeah.
Made it known.
And
mentioned you by name.
Mentioned me by name.
Okay. Wow.
By name.
Wow.
Yeah, by name. And it was just interesting that happened because it's just like you wouldn't expect someone that you look up to do something as atrocious as that, and someone who you valued and you served and you committed over a decade plus of your life to help building, their ministry. And so I remember I fell into a very deep depression.
So before you go there, what did he say to the congregation? Can you?
Yeah,
would you
no,
mind sharing?
listen, no
Okay,
limits, no
what did he
limits.
actually say?
So he said by name, I was sleeping around in the church.
Wow.
And it was interesting. I'm like, there's really nobody here I even see like that.
So was it true?
No.
Okay.
Not
I have to ask because otherwise people think we're just softballing our guests here. So the senior leader, you're not there. He calls you out by name and says that this man is sleeping around in the church, and he took his version of what he said based on a private conversation that you had with him, and wow, first of all, and obviously you're saying it wasn't true. So now, how you hear about this? How'd you hear about this?
So before she was my wife, we were best friends. So she had called me, and she was kind of confused. You know, it's like, okay, so I just got out of church, and I don't know how I feel with what I'm about to tell you. And I'm not even knowing what she's about to say. And I'm like, okay, you know, because again, you know, this particular leader is very vocal. So he'll just, you know, say things, and it's like, okay, all right, cool, whatever. And so when she said, so, you know, so-and-so said that you are sleeping around in the church, and now even my mom is looking at you, you know, with the face, it's like, is this true? And I was like, wait, he said what? And so immediately, by my innate nature, I was angry. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if I confided in you about something, you know, that I was going through or whatever, as a leader, you cover me and help me navigate through that, which never happened, by the way.
So you never recovered, never navigated. Now, because I'm putting myself in your shoes as we're talking, and I'm only imagining how my outlook toward the leader, the members of the church, even other communities would be. Walk us through that. What was now the next day or the following days, weeks, what have you? What was life like through that filter now of that, dealing with that? Ultimately, let's be honest, it was a betrayal of trust and confidence.
100%.
So what was then the effect of that on you?
The effect, it was instantaneous, actually. You know, as I stated earlier, I fell into a deep depression, so much so. And I mean, I've talked about it publicly, you know, in recent days, but I actually tried to commit suicide twice. And yeah, because it hurt so bad, you know, and I kept replaying and kept meditating on it, like, why? I just didn't understand why. And it wasn't the fact of, you know, the situation at hand of where, you know, where I confided in him. It was the fact that someone who I esteemed in essence did this to me, that I would never expect to do such a, you know, atrocious thing. And so I fell into a deep depression, and I remember after that, I was driving on the 10 freeway.
Okay.
I was going home, coming from LA, and I felt just invaluable. I felt just worthless.
How so?
I felt like my life meant nothing, you know, in that moment. And, you know,
Wow, it's tough.
as I'm driving, I just felt, hey, you have no reason to live. Dang. And I remember I turned my steering wheel to turn off the freeway. And as I turned it, my hand is right here. My steering wheel turns back this way, which you would think, okay, hold on. I did it again. My steering wheel turned back again this way. And in that moment, I felt the presence of God. And it was a process still to, you know, heal and recover from that. And, you know, it really messed me up. It damaged my viewpoint of men of God, of, you know, leaders. I just wanted nothing to do with any form of leadership, let alone church.
So you have this moment. You're trying to do something, but then the presence of God is saying no. The hand of God
literally
is literally, Jesus is literally taking the wheel, right?
Literally.
Now you say it was a process to recovery. Like, help some people at home understand what that process looks like. How long did it take? And then what ultimately became the antithesis, the moment in which it all came together.
So, excuse me. Oddly, after that, as I'm still, healing, I didn't have a church home for a couple of months because I just decided I'm good, at least for now. I'm all right. Me and God will figure this out. And I remember I had transitioned into another ministry.
Okay.
And so when I finally, I would kind of like pop in, so on, very often. And then I remember that then leader approached me and said, hey, when are you going to, be a part of this family? I'm like, whenever God speaks to me. That's just where I was. I didn't want to do anything that God didn't tell me to do. You know what I mean? And so I think that following Sunday, I made the decision to be a part of their ministry. And so when I did that, and I told them what I just came out of, and so it's like, okay, cool, we hear you. We're going to make sure we cover you. Cool. All right, let's go. All right. I think I may have maybe found home.
Okay.
And so, I'm in the ministry, I'm serving, I'm being diligent. And my before she's my wife, we still are best friends. And so she comes over, and then after some time, actually not too long, about a year, we get married. And so that was like the first instance, if you will.
Of the recovery process.
Yeah, of the recovery process. And then on the contrary of that, those leaders were kind of felt the way like, hey, this is a big moment. Like, why weren't we invited or,
to the wedding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was very intimate. It wasn't like a big thing,
Yikes.
Yeah, it was very.
I get you.
Yeah, and so I wanted to be just something special. I didn't want no, negativity. I didn't want no tension. For what?
You didn't want no church.
I didn't.
You didn't want no church to be involved with this.
I didn't.
Moment of this life moment.
At all.
Understandable.
And so this is the person who I knew for a fact that the Lord wanted me to be with, and vice versa. And so that was the start of my next experience with church. And so then from there, the relationship kind of like, and so I remember when when I mentioned my now wife, to my leader, and I remember vividly them saying, we don't think she's it. Oh, okay. And it was never no real reason why. And it just was like, okay, like let's.
And how soon after the decision, the wedding, was this conversation? Do you remember, like the time frame?
It wasn't. It was probably like a couple days to a week.
Before the wedding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
before
So before the wedding.
Yeah.
Now there's this seed of potential doubt.
Oh,
that's being sown.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
It was an ocean of doubt, actually.
That's tough.
Yeah.
An ocean of doubt. That's
it was
tough.
An ocean of doubt. And so, and then you question, okay, did I really hear God? In pursuing someone who I believe will be an asset to where I'm going.
Yeah.
And so, and I actually told her, and then that created, and not that I was trying to be, in a way messy, but I wanted to let her know, hey, this is how they feel. And so, and her first response was, but they don't know me, which they didn't. And so it was kind of like, well, we don't know her, so we just feel like she's not it. Okay. God bless y'all. And so I still went forward with what I believe to be correct, and here we are going on 6 years. And
Well, hold on. Sorry. Let's give a hand clap. Let's give a hand clap for that. 6 years. 6 years. Okay.
And as we journeyed, the relationship between my now wife and then my leaders are very estranged. Like and to the point of where, if you know my wife, she's a very submissive person. She's very reserved into herself, but she's very, submissive. And so she just stopped coming to church. And when I was so vested in the culture of the church, I served my church more than I served my wife.
Yeah, that happens. That can easily happen.
Yeah, and it was just like a thing of where I didn't see anything wrong with it. Because it's like, you knew I was a servant before you met me, so why is this shocking to you?
But what if I told you that it is in that space that actually sets the table for a lot of the hurt to happen?
Come on.
You know,
Yeah.
oftentimes we're giving so much of ourselves that the only way we're receiving anything is not from the people closest to us, it's from the place in which we're giving of ourselves, which is why it's important that we do have a fortified mind in where we are serving and where we are spending our time. So I wanted to ask you this, since you said it's a process to recovery, when did you notice that you had turned the corner? Well, before you even answer that, do you think there's a 1, 2, 3 step to recovery for your church? No.
No.
It's just a process itself.
It's a process. Because there's no specificity on how to heal, you know, because each person's journey is different. You know, even hearing, you know, Sashay's story, which is absolutely amazing.
It is amazing, yeah.
You know, but to see her recover in spite of that. Mine didn't necessarily look like hers. And, you know, for me on that road, it wasn't until I made the transition out. Because you sometimes can't see what you're in until you step away.
Made the transition out of that environment?
Yes.
Okay.
So I transitioned in June of 2020. But prior to that, I had, my wife had already left the church. She was gone. You know, she just couldn't submit to the culture of that particular house. And I didn't see the culture. And we would be at odds to the point of where divorce was on the table numerous times. And so I'm like, why am I losing my marriage? Yet God, I'm serving you. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, God, I'm committing my entire life, literally, to building this organization, and yet I'm not seeing fruit. My wife is like, I'm about to be out, you know, and I didn't understand it. I'm going back and forth with her. And so it was just this thing of where just constant tension, you know.
Tension.
And so it's like to the point where I'm showing up at church by myself every week for months, for probably almost 2 years. And so it wasn't until, and she would try to tell me certain things, and I just didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, whatever. You're being what I'm being instilled of what I think that you are. It's not true. And so when I made the decision to transition, I remember I laid in her lap and I just cried. I wept, like literally, I just cried. And
When you say transition, you still mean the transition out of the church?
Yeah, transition out of that church. So June 2020, I transitioned out. And I remember I just laid in her lap and I said, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't know, I didn't see it. I didn't see what you were talking about. And so, you know, after that, I had the opportunity to get connected to where we are now.
Where are we?
We're at Revelation Church,
Okay.
LA. And so my wife was actually the reason why I even found out who Prophet Lobi was. I had never even heard of him, and she had found him in actually 2019. And so she was telling me about this prophet. I'm like, okay, like I'm very loyal, so I like to stick to whoever I'm with. I don't like to bounce around and listen to different people. So I found myself in a place of where when I first encountered Prophet Lobi, I knew this is where I was supposed to be.
So let me get this straight. You went on a journey of church hurt.
Yeah.
You find yourself from leaving one church to another. This second place, well, the first place talks about you.
Yes.
All right. The second place pretty much disowns your union or even what you're about to embark on.
And talks about me.
Yeah, and talks about you. So cast the seed of doubt. So even in that respect, your wife could technically say she was experiencing some church hurt.
Oh, 1,000%.
And yet she is the reason why not only she was able to recover because she found the prophet online, but that then led you back to this place. And what would you say at that point then? How did you know you had recovered officially?
How I knew, it was a particular day. I actually had a conversation via text with Prophet Lobi. And I told him because at that time, when I transition out that church, I was done with church. I was done with God, seemingly, or at least I thought I was. And I remember I messaged him and I said, forgive me if I'm reluctant to embrace you. This whole father thing, I'm all right. I'm good, you know.
That's an honest thing to say, though.
I was serious. I was really serious because I wanted nothing to do with male figures, you know. And so I remember, I still have the response on my phone to this day. He said, son, don't worry about it. I love you. It was instantaneous healing for me in that moment.
Wow.
And so that was the redemptive moment for me where I knew, one, I was safe. I knew I was covered. I knew I was seen. And I knew that I was loved. And so that was the moment for me that changed everything. It was like I was revived and came back to life.
Off of words.
Off of words.
That is true.
The actions match the words.
That is truly the power of God. That is truly the power of God. Dre.
Yes, sir.
Please drop some fire. Drop some fire for what you're hearing. This is one of those topics that you know, you want to dedicate more and more time to. So just as I mentioned with Sashay earlier, I may have to bring this, or what I like to say now, run it back. I may have to run this thing back for a part two. So the question is this: if I were to do that, I feel like I'm doing a lot of part twos now. Part twos, but this one I think is important. But if I do that, I forgot to ask Sashay earlier. No, I didn't ask, but I'm going to ask Sashay. Would you be willing to come back if we, you know, want to discover a little bit more and just help some people? Maybe we'll have some Q&A from people, and you know, what I do think that is very important is the story you guys are telling today gives people an opportunity to now come and seek you guys individually, and maybe you can administer a good love of God, a good word of God, and just the heartfelt sincerity of the Lord to them, and help people individually walk through some things. So be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, in the between time, please tell the people how they can stay connected with you and where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera.
Amen. So you can find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Dre LaMonte, as well as my website, DreLaMonte.com, where you can find anything, everything, me, and yeah.
Can they find this shirt you're wearing today?
Yes, you can definitely find this shirt, which is from my clothing line. It's on my website, byrama.com, and make sure you go check that out.
All right, y'all heard it here. Listen, we'll be back with some final thoughts. Though the subject matter has seemed to be a bit heavy, a bit weighty, we're going to see what the Word of God is speaking to these things, and we're really going to make sure that no matter where you are, no matter what you're dealing with, whether you're in the beginning of it, the middle, or you've made it to the other side, that we're able to give you some things, some tools to help you, you know, just weather the storm. So we're going to be right back with some final thoughts. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Woo! I know. You know, sometimes the meatier, the heavier the subject matter, you know, we just need to just, ooh. But that was good. That was good. Thank you for coming back. I want to give my final thoughts on this matter we're calling church hurt. It can affect anybody, number one. You know, we heard Sashay, we heard from Dre. Specifically, we heard from Sashay of how leaders pretty much overstayed a welcome, but did not even truly honor the people that were honoring them. Sometimes when you don't honor those that honor you, you know, there's a bit of manipulation or just feeling taken advantage of that comes to play. We heard from Dre, you know, and Dre says, hey, I spoke with, you know, my leader, and I confided in a thought, in something that I was going through, And then that leader turned it around and said, a falsity in front of the congregation. For what reason, he doesn't know. Only God knows. So one thing they both had in common was that their church hurt came at the hands of a leader. But church hurt just doesn't come at the hands of your leadership. It can come at the hand of your brother, your sister, a family friend, family member. It's not exclusive to just leadership, but there's an underlining thing that causes it to happen. And it is when you put a certain loyalty or a certain amount of faith into a person, a place, or a thing. So sometimes I consider myself a servant of God. And I've almost at one point in time served to a detriment, where I had a whole business on one side, a place in which I owned, a place in which I governed, but I also had 5 or so different responsibilities at the church. Where do you think I found the fulfillment? At the place that was paying me, or at the place in which I could serve for free? It was at the church. And so it absolutely made zero sense when I encountered what I thought was hurt or some discord, because I realized it was just because I made myself so vulnerable to something. I remember the Lord speaking to me very clearly, telling me, and I asked him, what do I do? What do I do? I have all of this love, admiration, this loyalty for your house, but you've given me a business. But I want to be in your house. What do I do? What do I do? And he very simply, very, very, very sweetly said, well, what responsibility have I actually given you? What is actually your responsibility? And it was very clear. I had to go take care of this business that my father has given me, not my father's business. See, it's important to have a divide and an understanding and a healthy balance and boundaries. And what we heard today was loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. It's important not to have false loyalties. It's important to know when you're giving too much of yourself. How do you know you're giving too much of yourself? Your livelihood, your lifestyle, and the people closest to you begin to be affected. We heard in 2 instances where, with the families that were involved, the husband and the wife, we saw how that started to take a turn. We also saw love and forgiveness there, but we also saw that it was very important that they identified it and then had a conversation. But you're not going to be someone that is impenetrable at all times. A lot of the times church hurt happens is because there's an area of our life that we're not dealing with. There's an area of our life that we haven't heard the Lord in his command to tell us to be stronger there, to take over there. And as we know, all things work together for our good. He allows us, even in our ignorance, even in our vulnerability, to walk through something in order to bless us, to strengthen us, and to make us stronger. So even though it doesn't feel good, there's value in pain. And pain makes you stronger. I want to go into the scriptures here really, really quickly. Let's go to Psalms 146, and let us read out of the King James. Psalm 146, verse 3 to 4, if you wouldn't mind reading, Fatima.
Psalm 146, verses 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. His breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth. In that very day his thoughts perish.
Okay, so read verse 3 again.
Put not your trust in princes.
Okay, stop right there. So princes there is just saying authority, right? People of power. Okay, continue.
Nor in the Son of Man.
Okay, stop. You see there, son and man are both lowercase. So we're not talking about the Son of God. We're talking about a mere human being here. Okay, continue.
In whom there is no help.
Mm-hmm.
His breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth. In that very day his thoughts perish.
My dear brothers and sisters, we are all but mere flesh, meaning flesh and bones. Our breath leaves us, our breath returneth to this earth, our bodies to the earth, our spirits unto the Lord. We're just people. God gives authority to those who he feels deserve or needs or supposed to have, and he gives other responsibilities to other people. But I challenge you to, though you can understand these things, I challenge you to also know how to respect authority, but also have a healthy boundary for yourself. No one should be able to come to your house and tell you something to do because that's your house. But you can honor them. If your parents come to your house, you honor them, but it's still your house. I hear you, Mom. I hear you, Dad, but that's not how we do things in my house. That's how you do things in your house. So as the Word of God is saying, it is great to have an honor and a respect for those who you listen to. But don't do it in such a way where you are blindly following and blindly doing things. I watch every service here at Revelation Church, and the prophet could have just done an amazing, powerful prayer in which he engaged the entire congregation, and he told the entire congregation to declare this over your life, to speak these things, to speak this, to say this, to cancel this, to cancel that. And then people still, when it's all said and done, as if they did not hear what they just said, the power of their own tongue, they'll raise their hand and say, pray for me, pray for me, pray for me. When we know that you are the greatest prophet of your life, when we know that it is the power of God in which even our great man of God is using and is trying to help you connect to, engage with, and exercise in your own. So this topic of church hurt, it's been around. It's not going anywhere. But how to move forward is where I hope today's show allowed you to cast your vision. How to look past it, how to begin to heal, seeing that it is necessary to even heal. Hopefully we helped you do that today. Also, if you want to stay in contact with me, you can find me at jtboyd.co. That should also be on your screen. And look, sign up for the newsletter while you're there. Some amazing things, exciting things are happening, and I want to make sure that you know about them all. With that, let's keep in mind that church hurt comes at the expense of an honor, a respect, and a loyalty that's unchecked. So, with that being said, value yourself. Speaking of that, look at what you're going through the eyes of what is God doing in me to help me, to strengthen me, to better me. Because he'll never let anything harm you. He'll never let anything actually prosper against you. Because I promise you, you'll come out even better on the other side. And on that note, I've enjoyed this time with you guys today. Did you guys enjoy this show? I feel like what we did today was we just pulled the cover off something, because we hear this topic talked about, but it's just never, let's just say mentioned, but it's never really talked about. And so I think that from what we decided earlier, we'll do a part 2, and that's going to be an amazing time. We'll figure it out, I promise you. But as always, I want to take this opportunity to say hi to my mom and dad, and to your mama, and to your daddy, to your uncle, to your auntie, to your cousins, to your sisters, to your brothers. And you know what? We forget to mention your friends. To your friends. Let them know that it is time to talk. All right? And if it's time to talk, let's talk about it.